morning, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Very good.
Good. That's good to hear. My name's Colin, and this is our fourth meeting of Christian Sport Bike Fellowship, and today we're going to talk about the topic of pride and humility. So, dictionary.com defines pride as a feeling or deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements, the achievements of those with whom one is closely associated, or from qualities or possessions that are widely admired. There's nothing wrong with taking pride for a job well done, but today we're going to focus more on the type that causes people to have an inflated view of themselves and the consequences of those. So I'm just going to give you the story, or present the story. So there's this single mother, her name is Martha, and she has a son named Johnny, and Martha wants what's best for her child, so she does everything that she can to provide for him. Like, she makes sure that he's clothed, that he has food, and that he has shelter. And they live in this like small room in a garage in like a very dark house. And she makes sure that he has like top ramen to eat because it's affordable, and that she buys clothes from like Goodwill, like used clothes. So she also does like 2 jobs so that her son can have like a good education and that he can have extracurricular activities. But for her son, he sees that, his mom is never home. He's always out, or he's always staying with his friends or over at his friends' houses, and that when his mom is home, she's always tired and they don't interact much. So he doesn't like that he's in a bad, he notices that his living conditions aren't that great, that the food he eats every day, he gets sick of it, and that he compares himself, what he wears, to kids around him, and he's like, why do I have to wear used clothes when everyone else has like brand name clothes or something like that? So eventually he gets into a university, he gets accepted to an internship and then works for this company, and he becomes like a manager, and he does really well. And he like buys a condo, he buys a car, and like his life is pretty good. So his mom, like being a mom, she wants to check up on him and she wants him to visit, but for him, he's like, Mom, I'm pretty busy with my career, I can't really visit you. But in the back of his mind, he's thinking, I don't want to go back to my mom's place, like it sucks there. Like, I have this nice condo and she's like in this really dinky living space. Like, I have good food now, I don't want to eat top ramen, and like I have like suits and nice clothes, and my mom's always complaining, like she's always complaining about how hard her work is. And like in my mind, I'm thinking, Mom, if you just went to if you took evening classes and got a degree, you could get a really good job and you wouldn't have to complain about where you are. So he kind of just focuses on his career, kind of like blows his mom off, and then eventually his mom gets sick and she passes away. So this is a very extreme example, but in the story, Johnny was where he was because of all the sacrifices mom did. Like, she sacrificed her time and energy when she could have been pursuing like a degree to really take care of him and provide for him. And Johnny was prideful because he credited his success on his own achievements. He didn't see what his mom went through so that he could be in the position that he was in. So the heart of pride is focused on self. Mark 7:21 through 23 says, For from within, out of the heart of man, comes evil thoughts, and a list, and then pride, etc. All these evil things come from within, and they defile a person. So when we take credit for success, it blinds us to our own faults. It can make us arrogant when we think that we're better than others, and it can start interfering with our relationships with people. It also cuts us off from God because we become sufficient on ourselves. Psalms 10:4 says, in the pride of his face, the wicked one does not see him. All his thoughts are, there is no God. So why do we need God when we already have everything? I think that's a question that a lot of us think. We don't actually think it, but in the back of our mind, I think that's true for all of us. And I'm the first one to admit fault. Like, during the week, do I think about what has God done for me or how he's blessed me? Not really. So gotquestions.org says that pride is giving ourselves the credit for something that God has accomplished. Pride is taking the glory that belongs to God alone and keeping it for ourselves. Pride is essentially self-worship. Anything we accomplish in this world would not have been possible were it not for God enabling and sustaining us. That is why we give him the glory. He alone deserves it. God hates pride because we don't give him the credit that he rightfully deserves, like the single mother who raised the child. So what should be our response then? We should have a sober view of ourselves and give credit where it's due. We should set aside our pride and be humble. Dictionary.com defines humility as having a modest or low view of one's importance. That's not to say you should have low self-esteem, but or think of yourself as unworthy, but rather valuing other people's needs before your own. Philippians 2:3 says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves." So God gives us the ultimate example of this. And this is kind of what we covered through in Good Friday yesterday. Philippians 2:6-8 says, it's talking about Jesus, who though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but made himself nothing, taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of man. And being found in human form, he humbled himself and became obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. So that's like a lot of stuff that I just read. And what does that really mean? That means that the almighty God of this universe who created you and me, the God that we talked about in January, he came as a human. And not only did he come as a human, he became as like the lowest thing, like a servant. And he humbled himself, and that he even died so that we can be reconciled with the Father. So I think that takes a lot of humility, having all this authority and or not using that right and just becoming really low to like serve people that he really cared about. So he was the mediator between God and man that brought peace where there was separation, love where there was hatred, approval where there was shame, forgiveness where there was guilt, and life where there was death. So when we truly understand God's love and what he has done for us to get us to where we are, then everything changes. We can appreciate all the blessings in our lives and start considering other people's, we can start considering others above ourselves. And I imagine how the world would be different if everyone operated that way. So the 3 questions that I have that we're going to discuss are, number 1, share about a time when you were prideful. 2, what was the result or outcome? And 3, how would things have been different if you understood that God humbled himself by becoming a servant and sacrificing himself for you? So we'll break and discuss those questions.